All right. It says we're live. I don't know if we're live or not. There is a lag. Hey, anybody in the chat, there's not showing, yes, there's one person in chat now. If you can hear us and we're live, give us a 2 before in the chat, and we will know that we are live and ready to go. So we'll wait just a minute.
I don't have a very good connection right now.
What's that, Shelly?
I said I don't have a very good connection right now. I don't know why.
You're coming in fine with me. All right.
Hey, there's Melanie.
With a 2 before. All right. All right. Hey, I am Jason with Kentucky Sustainable Living. I've got Shelly with me tonight, and we've got Dr. Trevor Wilkins, the Angry Viking therapist, with us. And tonight we're going to talk about dealing with trauma and stuff like that. Dr. Trevor, I appreciate you being on tonight with us. Amazing stuff. I got to meet you in North Carolina and Tennessee when we were over there with Hurricane Helene. And I was talking to Shelly. I was like, we've got to get him. I was like, he's in Lexington. He's not far away. I was like, we've got to get him to come down to the next festival. And Shelly's like, go for it. So here we are. In a few days, you're going to be down here.
Yep.
Dr. Trevor, tell us how you became the Angry Viking therapist, the backstory on everything.
Yeah. The name itself, I'll tell you first, was definitely not an invention of mine. I was working on my first doctorate, and I was down at the school doing a residency at the doctorate, and the professor was writing something on the board. So he had his back to us, and he asked a question out loud, and I answered it out loud. And he turned around and he said, well, who answered that? And somebody in the room said, like, the Angry Viking looking dude over there. And it just kind of stuck. Years later, I was looking for kind of a not persona, but kind of a brand name, grow around a brand like you guys have done with your stuff. And I was talking to a business coach, and he's like, what do they call you? And I was like, I was once called the Angry Viking therapist. And he's like, done. That's your name now, So it just kind of stuck. I'm covered in Viking tattoos, so it worked out pretty good for me. So, but how I got to doing this, so I was in public safety. I did 20 years in public safety, 15 of which was as a uniform law enforcement officer, 5 before that as an EMT and a volunteer doing that. And needless to say, I did really well at my job, but I was pretty much a disaster at the end of it. I didn't get to finish my 20 years in the uniform law enforcement side, which is what it takes to get a pension. I was going very badly. Things we know now are probably trauma related and high stress, high acuity stress related. But I was pushing everybody and everything away as fast as I could. I came by the angry part of the Angry Viking therapist very well. Anger is my superpower, as I like to say. It takes a lot. I consistently try to fight it, of course, but that's the one I know best of all the emotions. I'm really good at it. Nothing immoral or illegal or unethical, nothing like that. But I was definitely on downhill slide. Losing my family. Eventually, I was kicked out of law enforcement. Again, nothing illegal. Just I didn't need to be there anymore. So, and they didn't know what to do with me. They didn't know how to help. This is over 10 years ago. We weren't really talking about trauma and stress about public safety as much yet. So I got out. I was done, and I had no career. I had no other job opportunities. I had no education. I had pushed my family away. I had pushed my friends away, being that angry guy. And I went to a couple different therapists, and, I think they were probably good people, good therapists, but they didn't understand me. And the first lady I talked to cried when I was talking to her, kind of telling her what was going on. And it's okay to show empathy with your clients, but you shouldn't be the only one having empathy or having emotion. And then the second guy, said that my anger and what he felt was PTSD was so bad, he didn't know what to do with it. And he didn't know where to send me. So that was the third person I saw. So it was 3 strikes and you're out for me of dealing with therapists. And, I felt like I was so messed up that apparently the pros didn't even know what to do with me. So I was just finishing up a bachelor's in criminal justice. I'd started that so I could kind of promote in law enforcement. I was just finishing that up, and I'm on my deck one night having a bourbon, and I realized that my school has a master's in professional counseling, and truly looked into that. And I thought, well, at least I'll figure out what the heck is wrong with me. Maybe I can figure some of this out, make myself better. 2 years later, I'd finished that and never to go to school ever again because that was terrible enough. And then one night I'm sitting on my back porch having a bourbon and realized that the PhD would make me even more intelligent in that field. I don't know if it really does or not, but that I would learn more. And lo and behold, all these years later, I'm about to finish my second PhD. So, it became a very educational thing for me. I truly started out doing it because I was trying to figure out how to fix myself, get my family back, get my life back, what was going on up here that nobody could seem to explain. And it turned into a pretty cool job. So now as you mentioned, Lexington, Kentucky's where my kind of local office is. Those are for people that's just in Kentucky. That's where my license is at. But online as the Angry Viking therapist and a company that created a very neuroscience-based trauma recovery company called the Neurotrauma Project. That's what I do online that most people will kind of funnel through and know me from. But yeah, so that's what I do now. I'm a mental health guy, apparently.
Yeah. Wow.
They like to call us mental health professionals, but I'm not very professional. So mental health guy, I think it works better.
Yeah, TJ always says that this is Doctor Trevor, and he's got more letters after his name than we know what to do with.
More than I know what to do with, to be honest with you. I just keep growing. I just keep trying to get better and better at my craft.
Oh yeah. Now, question: since you've done all this and you've got your doctorate, and you said that you did this to figure out what was wrong with you, has that helped? And you figured out that kind of thing?
Yeah, immensely. Helping. I'm not going to tell you that the master's and the doctorate fixed me. It's like any education. It just starts you on the right track, kind of get you the history and the beginning policies and you really have to grow. I'm very fortunate that I've been able to train at a couple significant places. One's called the Soldier Center just outside Fort Campbell. That's where I learned a lot of trauma from a unfortunately now past mentor of mine, Dr. Hurley, very well known in the public safety and mental health. Public safety and military mental health community. And I've been very fortunate to do a lot of training in New York City at a place called the Albert Ellis Institute. That's who created the type of therapy that I do. So you have to keep advancing yourself. You have to keep getting better. It's like any craft, right? Keep advancing yourself. And so doing that definitely helped me. But to be perfectly honest, helping other people helps me too. One, it's purpose, right? I always say you got to have purpose, whether it's your kids, whether it's your house, whether it's, the best purpose you can have is helping others. And not only does it give me great purpose to drive towards, but, there's plenty of times where I will say something to a client and think I should write that down because I need to do that too. There's things I need to fix about myself every day too. So, it definitely got me on the right path.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I see one of the advantages of coming to somebody like you. I've never had a therapist, had any kind of PTSD, any kind of trauma, stuff like that. But I would go to the person that's been there and done that kind of thing as opposed. And you see, and I don't know if it's true, but you see anytime you go to a therapist, it's, this real nice, nifty looking guy in a polo shirt or a suit or something like that. And I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, this guy's working through somebody's problems, and it doesn't look like he has a problem one in his life. He's got a wife and 1.8 kids and a picket fence. But when you come to somebody like you that's been there, got the T-shirt, you know what the people are going through. That's the big thing that I could see, would go with that. It's like, like Dave Ramsey says, don't ask a broke person for financial advice.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah. I get, I call it borrowed credit is what I, call it that I don't know every cop story. I don't know every EMS or fire or military story or somebody that's dealt with trauma. I don't know their story until they tell it to me and we start working through it, even if that's what we need to do. It may just be working through life now, but I do know, crappy bosses, and I do know trauma, and I do know responding to difficult things or having things happen to you in life that are very traumatic. So I don't pretend to understand their story, but I get borrowed credit and I don't take it lightly. I'm very thankful for it. That borrowed credit of somebody coming in and, if you went to a lot of therapists and said that, you're about to shoot somebody in the line of duty, they may think you're too aggressive. I've been there. So I understand, understand that. And what I always tell people is I don't know your story, but I definitely know what it's like to feel like you're drowning and you got one nostril above the water and you're kind of concerned about that one, right? Everybody can kind of picture that time in their life where they're that stressed out or overwhelmed, and maybe they are now. And I'll say not I don't know, maybe 70% of my clients at any time kind of fit that public safety military mold. The rest, I get just a lot of type A people. That's what I really want to advertise for. It's just really hard to quantify that. Very type A people, business owners. They're just people that, are trying to do well in life and need to get some of that stuff together. They don't you don't have to be public safety or military. I just draw that in because of my past. At any time, 30+% of my clients are adults with childhood trauma or not even necessarily trauma related. Just life is falling apart right now. I do a lot of that. So, and I've had my life fall apart. So, yeah, I think that borrowed credit definitely helps the person sitting across from me, even if it's virtually. That they don't feel like they have to explain every detail.
So somebody in the chat has said that they hope that you're going to touch on EMDR. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of what I would call my two primary modalities. So EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. The way I like to describe it best is EMDR helps process maladaptively or unprocessed traumatic memories. So it's the things that your nervous system is still stuck with. Now, sometimes that's really easy to see: flashbacks, nightmares, things that you become anxious or panicky about. Those are kind of easy to find. But the reality is, think of this as the nervous system and the brain's primary function is to keep you alive. And if you're doing things that are fight or flight, that become fight or flight or freeze, and they're not fight or flight, and we're not just talking things that are uncomfortable or that you don't like or don't want to do. If your body's going into that fight or flight and completely shutting you down, there's some trauma in there that's caused that. Your nervous system learns. Nobody taught us in the beginning what's good and bad or what's dangerous and safe. So what EMDR does, that don't get too caught up on the eye movement. That is part of the modality. There's plenty of other ways that you can actually do that. And we also know that the hemispheres of the brain kind of have two different priorities, two different things that they do. One is kind of the logic side. That's the left side. Prefrontal cortex works the most on that side. The lateral dorsal prefrontal cortex. The right side is kind of what I call the chaos side. It's not all that it does, but just to keep the side simple, it's all kind of the incoming information. Your limbic system fires back there the most. And what we have found out through years of brain scans is that when your limbic system, or that fight or flight part of your brain, when it's activated, the frontal dorsal lateral prefrontal cortex rather is disinhibited. It doesn't even ask its opinion. You're just responding in this very emergency manner: fight or flight, good or bad, hot or cold. There's no in between. And we need to get some of those things broken down if they're in the way, so that your prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of the brain, can actually calm you down, can actually tell you, we're okay here. We've been through this before. So I will say, very unpopular opinion in the EMDR world. This will make me, but EMDR is massively overused. Part of my second doctorate dissertation was about that, about the overuse of EMDR. The problem is that a lot of therapists will use EMDR in kind of a calming manner. And one of the things we know, one of the tenets of EMDR is what we call bilateral stimulation. So it could be eye movements, it could be sound, it could be vibrations in the hand. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Could be some dual processing. So we have you concentrate on something very difficult, like counting back from 100 by sevens while this difficult trauma is playing through your head. What we know about bilateral stimulation is that it's minimal. It calms the limbic system. Calms that fight or flight part of the brain down. So it's not inherently dangerous that we would use something like that just to calm you down. But if we're not actually using it for traumatic things, then we're just using it as kind of a calming method. And I've watched, and again, is what my second dissertation was about, is this placebo effect of, hey, I did EMDR and I feel much calmer. And then 3 days later, something happens that re-triggers a different memory, right? They're not actually processing anything. So what I tell people when they seek out EMDR, that's fine. That is one of my modalities. People can ask about that. The big thing is, what is today's issue connected to? Some of it's very easy, right? If you see something remind you of a very traumatic event or something that happened in your life, that's easy. Maybe that's something we need to work on, and we'll kind of part that out. But for a lot of people, it's not really necessary. EMDR needs to be used for what it's for. but it's become very mainstream, which is good. I'm glad it's more popular. It's become very mainstream. So a lot of it's being used for things it wasn't really designed to be used for, and it's just calming people down, which is nice. But you still have to get in there and do the cognitive change. So rational motive behavior therapy is what I was alluding to, that I trained extensively in New York City at the Albert Ellis Institute about. You still have to get in there, and the bigger part, in my opinion, in my professional opinion, the bigger part of getting better is changing your filter. We got to change your filter. Your filter has come from multiple things, whether it be tragedy or good or bad or sad or happy or angry or things that hurt and things that felt good. That becomes your filter. The things that you filter events through to get to the emotion. That needs the biggest work. So if EMDR is necessary to kind of get rid of that fight or flight, then it's the best tool, in my opinion, to do so when it comes to trauma. The vast majority of what people need, the vast majority of what I work with and what I see and helps people is more of that cognitive side, more of instilling the change in that filter that changes the way that you perceive things that aren't really catastrophic, that aren't really awful, that aren't really identifying you as a certain type of person. A small example of that is if our filter is I must do perfect or I'm trash, you must treat me with the respect that I deserve or you're trash, and the world must give me what I deserve or it's trash, your filter's probably messing you up. I think we've all done that, right? We've all said, that's a terrible person, and we don't even know that person. We just know they cut us off in traffic. That doesn't mean I'm very calm in traffic when people cut me off, right? We're talking the extremes here, right? The anger, the anxiety, the depression, and the guilt. They're not doing us any good. We've got to get those from those very unhealthy negative emotions to more healthy negative emotions like disappointed, frustrated, annoyed. Not by counting to 10, not by taking 5 deep breaths, although there is something to the physical side of that. We got to change your filter. So EMDR is a great tool if the brain is still stuck in trauma mode. Otherwise, it's a lot of cognitive change that needs to happen. Not necessarily talk therapy. I think people kind of put talk therapy in one category. If I just sit there and I talk about my problems and I'm supposed to feel better. Oh no, we're not here to hash out all the details of your problems. We're here to make some changes. So
about 10 years ago, my husband and I, we have 5 daughters, and 3 of them we adopted. And so one of our daughters that we adopted, she had serious bad trauma from when she was very, very, very young. And after about 2 years of therapy, and we weren't really making a lot of progress with her anxiety and stuff like that was going on, our therapist recommended, there was a woman in her office that did EMDR and did that with her, and had tremendous results. I mean, it was like it unlocked things, and then she was able to process those things. And it was, and when she first started talking to me about it, I was like, this has been almost 10 years ago. I was like, what? Like, because she was talking about the eye movement, and she had to hold these things in her hands, and all, dark room and all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know about this. And, and our daughter wanted me to sit in there with her. And so I just had to like sit in the corner and be quiet, like almost like I wasn't there. I could not believe how much it helped her to go. And it was a long process because the kid had a lot of trauma. I mean, but it was amazing to me how much it helped. And I'm like, I'm sold. It's a good tool. So
very good tool. Definitely when used for the right thing. To me, it is absolutely, I don't want to downplay it at all. It is absolutely the best tool for dealing with traumatic memories, for dealing with the trauma that's still coming up. The way I got this from a client one time and got permission to use it. He said what trauma does is it takes the event from right here in color and it puts it back here in black and white. It's still there. It's still bad. There's just not this overreaction to it all the time. Not everything goes back to that traumatic memory.
It's almost like it doesn't control you anymore.
Yeah, that's absolutely a great sentence. Yeah. It doesn't have the same control. Like I said, not everybody needs it. Most people have kind of gotten themselves to where they are today, and we need to work on that. And RBT is equally as impactful. But yeah, for trauma, for actual physical traumatic issues that are going on, or the physical reminders the brain is doing, EMDR is the king by far.
Nice. So as far as Dr. Trevor, as far as changing the filter, so do you
Mhm.
see a lot of people that anything that happens is like constitutes level 1 million emergency, and it's
Mhm.
like so changing that, some your kid drops the glass, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's the major emergency. When you're
Mhm.
talking about changing the filter, you're talking about taking everything and bringing it down. That everything's not that emergency situation all the time, right?
Yeah, and really changing the filter is what's reality, right? What can we prove? We want to think more rationally, things based on evidence, right?
Yeah.
If when I made an arrest in those 15 years, I didn't make an arrest based on maybe. I made an arrest based on I know the guy did it. I saw him do it. That's why I'm arresting him. I'm not going to the stand and saying like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he did it, right? I want to be able to stand and say I know he did it. Let me tell you how I know he did it. It's a very evidence based, very very based on rationality. The decisions you make every day, right? Whether it be for this event, whether it be for your job, whether it be for the home, we make those based on rationality, things that we know have worked before, things we've been taught. We may try something new and see if it works, but that just becomes part of that rational thinking. Irrational demands is what gets us in trouble, and the big umbrella beyond of all this is that emotions don't come from the things that happen to us. Emotions come from what we believe the thing that happened to us means. Right. So there's a filter in there. A lot of people, and it happens really fast, and we're kind of taught this way, is that an event happens and an emotion happens, right? You break up with me, I'm sad. You steal from me, I'm angry. But the reality is, a thing cannot cause an emotion. Now, we're not going to make a bad thing good, but a thing cannot cause an emotion. It's the thing filtered through my belief system that I've put together over decades of my life, right or wrong, rational or irrational, creates the emotion and the behavior. So we're not trying to take that emotion and make bad things good. That's silly. We're not trying to go from depressed to love everything. We're not trying to go from angry to I don't care. We're not trying to go from guilty to it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to go from guilty to remorse and anger to frustrated. And again, I don't do that by just deciding or willing it into existence that I'm going to do that. I need to be able to examine what my belief system is. That's where we come in, especially rational motive behavior therapists. That's where we come in to show you and examine with you and debate with you whether that filter is correct, whether the demand that you're making. And I'll tell you, most of the demands people make really aren't rational, right? The shoulds and the shalls and the musts. There's a sign, it's kind of dark up there. It says, I will not should on myself today, right? It's kind of a funny play on words, but it
Right.
reminds me like, how many times a day do you say should and shall and must not and cannot and have to, and they're not very rational? How many times
Mhm.
have we sat around and said, the sergeant can't do this to us. He cannot do this to us. Oh, he can. It's total BS, and we should do something about it, right? But when we're saying he can't do that, we're making a rational demand. He can do it. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong or I have to take it. But we got a couple levels of disturbance. First level of disturbance is I'm pretty pissed off he did it. I don't like that he did it. I don't think it's fair, and I'm pretty upset. Level two that we've gotten to is, and he blankety blank can't do it. He must not, shall not, cannot do it. And now I'm livid. Well, guess which one you're reacting to now? Not what he did. You're reacting to that second level disturbance. He shall not, must not, cannot do it. Again, it gets much more technical than that. But what I want people to see, whether it's their first visit with me or just a talk like this, or they've been with me for some time, is it's my stinking thinking that actually gets me in trouble. It's my filter that actually causes the emotional and behavioral consequence. I'm not going to fake it and make it nice, but I need to be rational. How many times, going back to you, talking about like everything is a major emergency, everything is the worst. How many times have I turned the kid dropping something on the ground into an overreaction? And I only have to describe those for people. I thought for years that I would have to that what I'd be seeing, because I was kind of a type A guy, is I get all these type A guys in and their wife made them come in because their anger's out of control, right? And they don't think it is. And I thought I'd have to spend a lot of time in my career describing to guys why anger can be bad. Now, I'm not the therapist that says anger's never correct. You ever fought somebody in a ditch on the side of the road by yourself and your backup's 45 minutes away? Anger works pretty good, right? I don't hurt the guy, but like, you better do something other than wish,
Yeah.
But so I always thought I have a lot of trouble. But what I figured out was The anger that gets us all in trouble is the one where you screamed at the kids. 15 minutes later, you're sitting on the couch feeling like a piece of trash because you did it again, right? And every person I've ever said that to goes, "Oh yeah, yeah, you're exactly right." Right?
Yeah.
It's not that I need to be passive and never say anything to my kid who dropped this for the third time, right? Or broke the phone or whatever it is. It's that I took it to another level, not by what they did. They did something. It's not good. We need to handle it. It's the event that I can't change. I'm gonna do something about it, but I can't. It's the activating event. It's the thing. When that gets filtered through my belief system of you cannot do this, it must not be this way. You're going to screw everything up. Hear those irrational demand words in there, right? And the overgeneralizations. Now I've labeled my kids something, if even for that long, right? I've labeled my kids something, and it's probably not very nice. And when we label people things, we don't mean this very moment, right? You did a stupid thing is very different than you're a stupid idiot. But we label them something very strong and overgeneralized. We catastrophize or awfulize it, right? This is the worst thing you could possibly do, which even me saying it now sounds crazy that they drop something. And what we call low frustration tolerance, or I can't stand it itis. So the kid drops something, and I said, you must not be this way, it shall not be this way, you must not disrespect me like this. You blank, right? As a person, this is the worst thing you could possibly do, and I can't possibly handle it. That sounds like anger to me. The problem is the anger emotion causes anger consequences, and you feel like an idiot 15 minutes later. And your spouse is pissed off at you because you did it again, the thing that you promised that you'd never do again. And I'll come back to trauma in just a second with that. But what's the reality, though? What is the reality that I had to relearn how to see? They drop something and it breaks. And they're known for this. So we've had discussions about being more careful, right? I don't want you to drop it. This is a problem. This is a problem that I'm going to handle. I think it's a pretty stupid thing you did, but I don't think you're a stupid idiot. Right? It's not the worst thing that could possibly happen, and we are going to handle it. You're still in trouble, but we are going to handle it. And my outcome from that kind of thinking is pretty dang frustrated, right? The stories of Ellis, who kind of created this type of therapy, that people would come in, and he had a very funny bedside manner. He'd come in and say, "What was your name again? What do you want?" And that's pretty much how it started. And the guy would say something like, "Well, let's see. I had a big fight with my wife last night." And he would say, "Okay, how did you make yourself feel about that fight? Because a fight can't make you feel anything." And the guy says, "Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm pretty frustrated. Like, I'm really frustrated." And he would say something to the tune of like, "You just wasted your money and my time. You should be frustrated, dummy. You had a fight with your wife. Frustrated makes sense." What he's trying to get him to say is, "I'm angry, I'm depressed, I'm guilty, I'm anxious," right? Because that's what we need to work on. We're not trying to make the fight with the wife good. But if I can keep it in the range of frustration, I make better decisions. I have better outcomes. Not to mention the fact that now that I feel disrespected, I've turned them into something else, right? This person that I would take a bullet for, this person I'd give my life for, I have vilified them for disrespecting me, and you must not, shall not, cannot treat me with disrespect. Again,
The
that's
fight with the wife is just symptoms of the underlying problem.
yeah. And then you
Yeah.
look at the trauma side too. Now, the trick about trauma, and you kind of go back to that EMDR idea, is that those typical overreactions when it comes to the trauma side is that they're created by events that left us feeling helpless, hopeless, or not good enough. And that's what's getting re-triggered in the brain. That's what's setting us back off in that fight or flight, right? It becomes our everything. It's not the event. Your brain knows the event is over. It knows that it happened 1 year or 20 years or 30 years ago, but it's that very helpless and hopeless feeling, that very not good enough feeling that gets re-triggered and puts you into immediate defense mode. So you overreact. And years ago, I thought I'd have to change those terms, the helpless, hopeless, not good enough. And, because I work with a lot of type A people, like, you call me helpless in a bar, it may not go well for you. So, but it turns out every time I use those words, that the trauma made me feel helpless, hopeless, and not good enough, and that's what gets re-triggered. Every person sitting across from me goes, "Yeah, you just described me at my worst." We're not talking sad. We're not talking, I don't think anybody likes me. We're not talking, I don't think I'm very good at this, or I screw up a lot. completely helpless, completely hopeless, completely not good enough. In my opinion, hopeless is where, well, we're on YouTube, so I got to be careful, is where somebody takes their own life, right? So that's hopelessness. So when that gets re-triggered, maybe we're looking differently. Maybe we're looking at a trauma. It's not all the time. In fact, I wouldn't even say it's the majority of the time that that's what we need to unravel. We're going to investigate that. But so the kid drops something, right? And your brain goes to emergency mode. It immediately brings up the time that somebody dropped something that made a loud noise, and you think you're in the middle of that trauma again. Your body's reacting as if it were going on right now, right? We're not going to use it as an excuse, but maybe there is something in there we need to work out as well. That's where somebody like me comes in, trying to part out, is this our filter? Is this trauma? Where do we need to go? And even if it is trauma related, we got to come in with the filter stuff after. The techniques and the interventions that I've created and tested and put together came from the fact that people were just doing EMDR and then saying like, they're good. Don't you feel better? You're good now. Like everything's fine now, right? You got to follow that up with, no, I got to make some better decisions here, some more rational decisions, a better filter here. So, so that's up to us. I hope that didn't confuse too much putting all those different pieces together, but that's where it all comes in right there.
Well, so I don't normally do this, but I think I have a rabbit hole that we can jump into.
I love those. Yeah.
Let me roll my eyes real quick, Shelly.
Right. So, and I'm just kind of curious about your thoughts on this, but so like I grew up, I was born in 70. So I grew up in the 70s and 80s. Mm-hmm. And every day I count myself blessed that I did, because I grew up in a time when people did not have the internet and all these handheld devices and all this video stuff and the craziness and all of that. What are your thoughts about mental health and social media, and in regards to, like the things that I look at on my computer, because my computer tracks what I look at, or my phone is listening to what I'm talking about or whatever, then it's going to feed me those things. Those things are going to pop up in ads and all that stuff. So somebody who's completely opposite of me and whatever their beliefs are or whatever, the same thing is happening to them, and they're being bombarded with stuff. I'm being bombarded with stuff. I feel like that's a mental health issue. Mm-hmm. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'd wholeheartedly agree. The internet and social media is one of the best things that's ever happened to us. I learn at a much greater, faster rate because of the internet. I'm able to access things. I think back to, I was doing my first dissertation, and one of my committee members did his dissertation in the 70s. So we're talking even pre-early word processor, right? So his entire dissertation, I have it on my shelf, is typed out by hand. Right. And I was with him one day, and we had to change, kind of significantly change part of a chapter of my dissertation, just add some stuff to it, which was going to move everything around a little bit. And I was frustrated. He's like, here's what you got to understand. If I messed up or I had to add something in my dissertation, I had to retype the 100 pages after it because they didn't fit anymore. So it definitely is a great thing, right? I was complaining about having to move these charts around and stuff, but it's definitely a great thing. I learned at a much faster rate. I teach at a couple universities as a professor as well. And what I love about kind of the virtual way that they do these master's degrees, is that you can learn from people from all over the nation who right. cannot dedicate themselves to moving to the university and have significant experience in the field, as opposed to somebody that may just, have gone into academia, which is extremely important, but it's also good to learn from people who have a lot of experience. So on the positive, it's done a lot for us. We're able to access this information at a faster rate than we could have ever imagined in the 80s and 70s, right? Even the 90s. So, but yes, massively detrimental too. Massively detrimental. To me, it's because of the comparison, right? We're constantly comparing ourselves to other people. I do it myself. I'll see, other therapists or life coaches doing well, and I'm like, man, why did theirs take off and mine hasn't taken off yet? I've got the, Nothing negative to them. I'm glad when people have success with it. I hope they're helping lots of people, but there's a comparison in there. It takes me away from trying to remember the accomplishments that I've had so far, because I'm constantly looking to not necessarily be like somebody else, but there are definitely some things I still want to achieve and I've seen other people achieve. So I think the comparison model, the comparison model part of it's probably pretty terrible. That I was just listening to a podcast the other day. There's a psychologist. I wish I remember his name off the top of my head. That literally this is his life study is showing how social media has massively been detrimental to mental health overall. It's very convenient, but it's very, very detrimental. Yeah, I think it's an absolutely true rabbit hole. I don't know all the specifications about it like this psychologist did, but there's a lot of comparison in there, whether it be, and we always think of like teenagers comparing themselves to each other and how detrimental that could be in the school and online, and beauty, and like we professionals do it too. We're all comparing ourselves. Now, if you have a good mindset about it, if you have a good filter for it, then I can still be disappointed that I haven't achieved what they're achieving without it labeling me as a terrible or lazy person or not good enough or,
Right.
never going to get there. That's the difference, going back to that filter. So I don't want to cut it off completely. It's probably our filter that's the real problem. But yeah, I think that the comparison part of it has been vastly detrimental and it only shows snippets of things. I work in the public safety world a lot, and I can tell you there are hundreds of thousands of good cops out there. There are some knuckleheads, 100%. There's some knuckleheads that shouldn't be doing the job, and I want to see them all rooted out. But when you only see 15 seconds of a video and the news runs with it,
Right.
what's the whole story here? And how many times the media has taken snippets or things, not just the media, social media, and we do it to each other, right? We post our own stuff that's only 10 seconds long. We have an opinion about it, and then we just delete it later if we're wrong and not apologize for it. I won't go down this rabbit hole, but one of my very good friends is the Sergeant John Manning that was shot in the Breonna Taylor case. And if you ever have a chance to listen to one of his talks, do it. If you didn't think the media was purposefully evil before his talk, and he shows you the body cams and the stories and the diagrams of what actually happened, you will be absolutely appalled that not only did the media blatantly lie about this, but it caused riots. It caused massive nationwide problems. So it's not just, oops, we told you that part wrong. Sorry. There's detrimental effects. And I think social media can do the same thing. We want to hold that media to the higher standard, but I think social media does the same thing. If I just show you my little opinion with absolutely no basis behind it, I think that's where the internet absolutely can be a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, I think internet and social media is just like people. It's the best thing and the worst thing in life.
Fair. Yep.
I mean, that's just, and then showing, you're talking about how you're always comparing people and stuff, how everybody compares themselves to this person on the internet and everything. It's like a lot of the homesteaders, and Billy from Permapastures has said this a lot, and William said it too. It's like these people on TikTok and Instagram, they'll show that one little part of their farm that's super manicured and everything else. And then somebody gets on their phone, they're scrolling, they're like, oh my gosh, my farm does not look anything like that. How can I have my farm like that? And then if they pan around, it's all just a feedlot, and it's all dirt and everything else. Yeah. And it's like, get the whole picture of it.
Yeah. When we see behind the curtain a little bit, it'll change your opinion. Not maybe not that those social media folks aren't bad people, but they're showing you the best of you. And we've done it for, like, even before social media, right? We as humanity would buy the nicest car that we could barely afford, so we can roll up to the place in that nice car, and everything's like, man, so-and-so is doing pretty good, When in reality, I've got a friend who is a medical doctor here in town, and is doing quite well financially. He's put a lot of time into it. He works for a lot of different groups, and he's a consultant for a lot of different things. So he's really built himself up. And I swear he drives like a 1998 Tracker, because there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
So, like, the guy that's making the most out of our group is driving the junkiest, uncomfortable car that the air conditioner half works in.
Right.
But another guy in our group is scraping pennies and he's driving, $100,000 car.
Yeah.
So we do it. We've done it for years. I think the social media just really amplified it.
Yeah. It's like the old farmer that's sitting there in the old beat up truck at the front of the gas station. You look at that guy and you're like, man, that guy ain't got a dollar to his name, but he'll reach in his liberties and pull out like $100,000 and be like, yeah, I'll go buy this thing. And it's like, that's the guy that's got the money right there.
Man, we were in, you and I we talked about meeting in Tennessee, North Carolina at a deployment. I went down to London, Kentucky when that tornado hit. And one of the days we were out there, I didn't get time very long, so I had to leave the next day, but Grindstone's always looking for people in the area that need help. And Kyle of Grindstone would tell this so much better because he knew him more. This gentleman, I think he was in his 80s. And a lot of his fence line and tree, his house was okay. It had been beaten up a little bit, but a lot of his property was destroyed, which was letting the cows out. So now he's going to be losing money. And so we went up. Somebody told us about him. We went up to meet him, and he was in his 80s. He did need some help. And he bought that farm when he turned 18 years old.
Really?
And he saved up, and I think he and his dad, or he bought that farm. He's lived there since he was 18 years old. He's in his 80s. And he was the quintessential Eastern Kentucky farmer. He was in overalls with no T-shirt and, had a decent home and all his cattle and like a decent truck, and the equipment he needed. But yeah, in his pocket, literally in his zipper pocket was, the money he needed because he tried to pay us and we wouldn't let him, of course, and an old flip phone. And if my kids saw that, they think like, God, what a loser, his old flip phone, he can't do it. And he's pulling his flip phone out and I'm like, genius is what that guy is. If I would not have this, I forget what TJ calls a rectangle of doom or something, but I would not have it if it wasn't so convenient to track my kids, run my business, send out things when I need it, kill some time, it's he pulled out that flip phone and answered a phone call. And I was like, that dude's a genius right there. Like he's smarter than all of us. I got all these degrees and that guy's way smarter than me.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Shifting gears, the festival. And first, if you've not got your tickets to the festival, tonight at midnight, the coupon code is July 4th, all spelled out, capital letters. Tickets are 25% off. That's going to end at midnight tonight. That's the last special we're going to run on tickets. So that's going to end then. So get your tickets before midnight tonight, or you're going to pay full price from here on out.
We're less than 2 weeks away.
I know. It's like
my brain is in full on panic mode because I'm like, where's my list? Where's my list?
Oh yeah. Well, before we came on, Shelly's like, I've got a list of everything that's ready to go. And she's like, I feel like I'm forgetting something. And I was like, I made my Monday list. And so far I've got half of it done. Mm-hmm. So I'll get the other half hopefully done tonight. But the festival, I told Shelly, I came back because we were in Tennessee and North Carolina. And I was like, I met Doctor Trevor. And I was like, I wonder if we could get him to speak. And Shelly's like, what can we do? I was like, what if he talks about dealing with trauma and disaster situations? And I said, we're not going to go full Walking Dead zombie apocalypse kind of thing. I'm like, but
what about what just happened in Texas?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not when you talk about prepping and all of that kind of stuff, being sustainable, it's not about the zombie apocalypse. It's not about the big, like bombs and all that kind of stuff. It's about flash flooding tearing through your town or tornadoes here in Kentucky or, that's the stuff that we deal with every day. Right.
Yeah. And I was like, what if we get him to talk about that, about the tornado that came and tore your house down and you're standing in your front yard in your pajamas and you're looking at your life's work just scattered out in the front yard. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with everything else? And then you can transition if you want to go full on EMP zombie apocalypse. You're like, I can deal with the tornadoes. And then, when the zombies come out, it's like, okay, Dr. Trevor told me how to do this. So when the zombies come, at least I'll be shooting some zombies and then dealing with the trauma then.
Yeah, right. Me too. Me too.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted you to talk about at the festival. And I'm like, nobody, and I really haven't seen, and we go to a lot of these festivals, I haven't really seen anybody talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, as a little preview, it doesn't give anything away because this is the stuff that I say all the time. Obviously, it's going to be moved more in that direction of what you're talking about. But you have to remind people all the time that you're not in control of everything. You're not, and that feels terrible. It feels terrible to not be in control. I like to be in control. I like to drive. I like to be in charge of things, not in a show off kind of way, but I like things to go the way I like them to go. And I learned a lot along this path because, as we alluded to before, uh, getting better wasn't just for other people; it was for me too. Right? I had a lot of learning to do, and learning things like rational thinking and rational therapy and Stoic philosophy and EMDR and all the things that I do and teach and make part of just my life now, much less talk about it to other people. Is what can you control in this situation? If you're standing on the front porch and things are devastated, which part of this can you control? You can control your actions. You can control your beliefs. You can control how you're going to respond. And on the surface level, sometimes when I say those things, it feels very like, oh, that's it. That's all you got for me is I can just take care of myself or control what I can. That's the only thing you have. It's not the little thing you have. That's all you have control of, whether it comes to trauma, things that happen or have happened in your past. Again, your brain knows that stuff is in the past.
Yeah.
What do you have control over now? Is it your beliefs of self or other people or the world? Is standing on that porch after a devastation, which you and I, have seen plenty of times and responded to, many of those, whether it be individual, like at the public safety level, or more at a catastrophic level, like we met at. What can I control here? And to with that, being in Tennessee, North Carolina, watching people kind of pull up to the fob and needing something, needing a generator, needing water, needing some help at their place, needing a chainsaw chain because they broke their last one, getting their family out, of a mess. And you can give them some kind of modicum of control, like, hey, here's a generator. I know this didn't fix all your problems, but yeah, you can have some power now. Or yeah, here's the chain so you can go back. And finish what you were doing around your house. In fact, we'll come help you, right? The disaster is still the disaster. It's just being able to have some kind of, what can you control? You can't control the disaster. That doesn't mean you're not going to have emotions about it. That doesn't mean it's not going to be very difficult, but what can you control here? And I think anybody that has been in a difficult situation and then started taking steps forward has experienced this feeling, right? Just, okay, we got to go do it now. And we take a couple steps forward and then it doesn't feel quite so overwhelming anymore. That's you taking control of what you can control. If I stay on the front porch and just feel the disaster of all this, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Trouble. Obviously that stuff's going to come in, but if you have to realize this is bad. This is really bad. What can I control about this? Whether that's disaster, whether that's life, whether that's, family or, so yeah, I mean, certainly in much more detail when it comes to the festival, but that's it. That's all you can do is what can you control, whether it be emotions or behaviors.
And a lot of it too is how you process stuff. There's kind of a running joke between me and my wife that if we drove up to the house and the house was on fire, I would be like, holy crap, our house is burning down. My wife is going to be like, holy crap, the firemen are going to see the dirty dishes in the sink. And it's like, we're two totally different ends of the spectrum. And we laugh and kid about that. But it is, part of it is how you process stuff too, and what step you take after that.
Well, and look at it as it pertains to trauma, right? Well, I won't go too far into this just for time's sake, but one of the ways that we kind of find out if this is a trauma related thing and we need to do some trauma specific things, or if this is kind of, we have a much more professional term for the filter, but I really like that term. Most people understand. The way that I do that, one of those is, when you're at your worst right now, and ask a couple of questions about how it's manifesting, what's going on, some detailed questions. And then I'll ask people, like, when you're feeling that way right there, not just uncomfortable, I've really stirred up some emotion in somebody at this point. When you feel that way right there, what's the earliest in your life you remember feeling that way? And if they have trauma early in their life, it's almost like magic. They will say 7 or 8 years old, first, second, third grade, right? It's almost every time. I could write 7 or 8 on my hand. And that's not a magic trick. I don't know people's life. 7 or 8 is when your prefrontal cortex starts coming on board, the thinking part of the brain. It's not fully formed till age 25, but starts coming on about 7 or 8. If you ever raise any kids, 7, 8, first, second grade, second, third grade is when they start getting a little personality. They stop just copying. They start asking questions about the world, right? That's when your prefrontal cortex is coming on board and it's starting to try to figure out the world. You're not just fight or flight anymore. Well, when you're 7 or 8, one of the things that you're supposed to learn is that your value as a human, no matter what you screw up, you're still a valuable human. How you're going to treat other people and how you're going to let other people treat you. And it turns out, the more I do this, I learn there's a lot of parents that were really terrible at teaching those lessons, right? Now, maybe something traumatic happened in their life to the whole family, but if you don't have that base as your filter, are we really surprised at 45 that you're losing it when something reminds you of this terrible thing that happened? We're going back to the filter, right? If we're not saying easy life, but if you learned earlier in your life, hey, we love you, you're a knucklehead, but we still love you, you're a valuable person, you're not going to let people treat you poorly, and this is how you're going to treat other people. I'm not really surprised when we get into our 20s and 30s and 40s and bad things happen, they're still bad, but our filter is able to go, this is terrible, but we're going to be okay, right? If you never learn that, are we really surprised that 30 years later, maybe you white knuckled life, right? And you went and got the college degree and the good job, and you had the kids and you had the house and the nice cars, and then some, so you're just white knuckling life, and then suddenly something happens that takes you back to day zero. It feels like that's the trauma part. So, what can you control at the end of this? Not everybody needs intense trauma therapy, but what everybody does need to know is what can you control about this? That things that happen at a young age or as an adult, what can you control about this? That the event is the event. What can I control about this? What filter, what rational evidence-based filter do I need to see this through? Which takes practice. It took me years to get good at it, and I still don't do it perfect. Don't watch me in traffic. I'm still learning, but but I'm definitely better than I used to be. A great example is traffic. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, and you got 2 options here. Either you rationally know that they're a crappy driver and they might have done that on purpose, and you honk at them, flip them off, whatever, right? Or do you rationally doesn't mean wrong, it just means not based on evidence, decide that you can't do this to me, you must not treat me with disrespect because I deserve respect from you, and you're a worthless trash human being because you did it. That's the anger side, right? Now, I'm not telling you have to be nice to people that cut you off or nice to people that wrong you. The difference is this. In that first one, of frustrated because, what a jerk, he can't drive, get out of my way. I honk my horn, flip him off, give him a thumbs down. That's what I've been doing lately. Whatever you want to do. And I go on about my way. The other one where I decided he's a piece of trash human being and you must not, cannot, shall not do this to me and disrespect me in this way, and you're a terrible, horrible person. I flip him off and honk my horn. The difference is 10 minutes later, I'm still gripping the steering wheel so hard I think the airbag's going to pop out. My wife's pissed off at me and the kids are scared in the back because I'm driving like an idiot, right? We're not saying go from that to, it's okay, buddy, right? Yeah. I'm still upset, but there's a difference in those 2 filters, and neither one of them are weak. I'm not teaching being weak. Yeah. But one of those, you went on with your life, and maybe you'll run into that guy some other day. And one of those, you're fighting with your spouse and kids 20 minutes later because you're still reacting to that. I know because I've seen me do it.
That's why I tell my wife, that's why I don't carry a bucket of rocks on the transmission hump. And yeah. She was like, what are you talking about? I was like, when people do that, I would grab a rock and want to just throw it at them. I said, That's why there's no rocks in the truck. And she's like, you're odd. Sometimes you have to put the physical restraints in place rather than the mental restraints sometimes. Yeah. Yep. Same. I shouldn't have a bucket of rocks in my car. Yeah.
I was at a Bible study, 20 years ago, a long time ago. And this woman that went to church with me, she was in her 80s and she was at this Bible study. And I was talking about, because I'm originally from Indianapolis, so I was talking about going home to Indianapolis. And, the minute I hit 465, like road rage just turns on. Like nothing even happens. I just hit that loop around Indy and I'm immediately, like aggressive or whatever. And I remember she told me, and I was just kind of like talking about this as kind of like a confession. Like, I know I shouldn't be that way, but this is what it is or whatever. And she looked at me and said, well, Shelly, don't you know that if you prayed for every car you see, you wouldn't feel that road rage? And I'm like, Francis, you're absolutely right, but I ain't there, honey.
Yeah.
Like, I am not there.
Yeah. If somebody cuts me off, the reason, one of the reasons I love keeping my wife around is she's like, maybe they had a crock pot in their front seat. They're trying not to spill. And I'm like, they should have seatbelted it in then.
Yeah.
Like that, so I'm not the, if I'm stuck in line with 20 people at the grocery store, I'm not the guy that's like, man, aren't you just glad that we have the money for groceries and it's air conditioning here? I'm still pretty upset. I just don't want to be 10 out of 10 anymore. They can't do this to us. Right. The first thing I think of when I hear those demand words, can't, shall not, like, they can't do this to us. My first thought is, lady, it's in progress. Like, it's BS. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference between I don't want them to do this and I'm pretty upset and I want to leave. Not being weak. I'm not a weak person, but and they can't do this to us. Yeah, they can. It's BS. I'm with you, right? But that's two different people 10 minutes later. Yeah, I'm not there. I'm not anybody's been to Dallas. I grew up in the Dallas area. I learned to drive on the LBJ. So like the biggest loop around. I don't know the statistics of it anymore, but it's a ridiculous number of lanes on both sides, and everybody's either doing 0 or 100.
Yeah.
So, if you can get on that road, I'll tell you, if you can get on that road and pray for every car, you don't need me. You don't need me. You're good.
I think Francis could have done it, but yeah, I'm not there.
I'm not there.
So we've got It's a New Day said that they are coming from the East Coast of North Carolina. They got their tickets a few months ago. They're meeting friends that have moved to Mississippi and they can't wait to meet us. Y'all, that is awesome.
Yeah.
If you want to know where to get your tickets, you can go to who cares, whatever. You can go to KentuckySustainableLiving.com and get your tickets there. If you get them today and you use July 4th, all spelled out, you can get 25% off of all your tickets. Kids 17 and under get in for free. We have a huge lineup of speakers and workshops. Dr. Trevor is just one of the amazing speakers that's going to be there. You're going to learn a lot of stuff from him. You'll be able to ask him questions and talk to him and meet him face to face. You need to come check it out.
I might be hitching a ride home with It's a New Day because if I'm not at home, you often find my wife and I on the East Coast of North Carolina. So it's one of our favorite places. We thought about buying a home out there one time on an island that we love, and then I pulled up Zillow and looked at the prices. So it's not going to happen.
I bet it's probably expensive out there, big time.
Yeah.
Do you know that they've been tracking?
We wanted to live.
They've been tracking the biggest great white shark that they have tagged off the coast of North Carolina and South Carolina. Its name is Contender, and he's like 16 feet long or something. And
you
can follow him on the internet. I mean, I'm just like, what?
That sounds like a pro rodeo bull's name, Contender.
Wow. I don't want nothing to do with that. I'm not good on the ocean. I'm like, I'll wade out like ankle deep. Other than that, I'm good.
I'm one of those kids that was traumatized by Jaws back in the 70s. And I'm like, nah, I'm not a beach person. That's not my thing.
Yeah, we're gonna need a bigger boat. Yeah,
right.
I do not adore the beach. I like the beach. My wife adores the beach, so I go to the beach for my wife. Right? I'm smart. Yeah. I want to stay married for a long time. I take her to the beach, but North Carolina is one of our favorites for sure.
I'm in the same boat. I could care less about the beach, but my youngest one and my wife want to go, so I'm like, okay, we're going to spend some time at the beach.
Yep, I've driven to the East Coast many times.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but yeah, guys, the festival is going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an awesome time. I mean, I'm super excited. How many days are we? Like 10 days?
Something like that.
Yeah. We're like 10 days away. It's going to be a fabulous time. So I don't know. Dr. Trevor, you got anything else? Or hey, Shelly, can I ask the question I asked last time? That should have been our question that we asked before we go out.
I don't know what you asked last time.
Is the Earth round or flat? And
You're
did we go?
asking me?
And did we go to the moon?
I think it's pretty round.
All right.
Yeah.
Did we go to the moon or not?
Oh man, that's tricky. That's tricky, man. Some days I think so, and some days I think that we didn't. I don't even know. I don't even know on that one.
Thoroughly believes that we did not. Like you cannot convince him that we did.
I've seen a lot of videos that makes it very suspicious looking, of stuff that we can see now that we couldn't see in videos back then, or but no, I think it's round. But other than that, I don't know. I'm over here just trying to fix people's filter.
He's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, but there's something to that. Like there's a mental health side of that, as well as like a lot of the things that people just in the world, maybe none of your listeners, but that people in the world get so upset and fired up about. And I'm just over here trying to control what I can control. Like I keep an eye on that stuff. I'm not going to ignore the world, but like I'm over here trying to control this stuff. You know, I can't get lost in that.
Yeah, and that's what I tell a lot of people too. It's like, look at the news and figure out what's going on, but you can't control what's going on over in Ukraine, over in Israel. There's nothing you can do for that. But in your little 5-mile radius at where you live, you can have some influence there. So have some influence and control in that area. Keep an eye on it. See what's going on over there. But your main focus is right there at your house and your neighborhood and your city.
Yeah, well, and I would say on the I don't know that I can the percentage of this psychologically, but just because I deal with people all day and work with people's brains all day long, a vast majority of the people that are completely caught up in that stuff probably don't have control of themselves either. So, like there's you stand up for what you need to stand up for by all means, but my mental health comes from my good mental health comes from what I can control.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. All right. Well, Dr. Trevor, we appreciate it a bunch. Guys, we will see y'all Friday, the 18th of July, here in just a week and a half or so. We'll see y'all. You can talk to Dr. Trevor in person. Come and listen to his talk on how to deal with trauma in a crisis situation. I don't really know exactly what we named it, but that's going to be close. So, but guys, I appreciate it. And we will see y'all then. Y'all have a good night.
Bye.